and welcome to Jolenes Book and Writers Talk. This week, we feature founder, audio narrator, author, and CEO of Pro Audio Voices, Miss Becky Geist. We hope you will listen to the podcast and share and subscribe with all your friends. Without further ado, please welcome Miss Becky Geist.
Hi, I'm Becky Parker Geist. I am the CEO of Pro Audio Voices and the president of Bay Area Independent Publishers Association. I was also founded Pro Audio Voices, and I'm the host of Audiobook Connection podcast, Behind the Scenes with the Creative Teams.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about how, I know that you guys do like pre-meeting at the beginning. That's what it says on your website.
I do.
How do you go about getting your clients signed up with the thing that they need for you to go forward?
So when we first meet with client, an author, small publisher, we're asking questions really about their big picture. We like to understand, like, what's your biggest goal? What's your biggest challenge? These are really helpful to us because when we're approaching an audiobook production, we're really looking at the big picture and how that production, how that audiobook can help them achieve their goals. So that's going to be different if you're an author of a series, for example, versus maybe a business entrepreneur and you're using your book in a sort of a lead magnet kind of way. There are just so many different ways that people are using their audiobooks. Many authors aren't really they may be thinking about it, but not really realizing how much the production itself can contribute actively in that process. So that's the first thing we're asking about in a very first meeting with an author. And then when we start into the audiobook production process, we're really starting with pre-production. And pre-production involves not just figuring out who is going to voice the project, but also all the details around the manuscript that will help leverage that audiobook to achieve that author's goals.
Now, I know that you offer either single, a couple, and a full cast production. Can you give us a little bit of feedback or information about that?
Yeah, each book is very unique. And we treat it as such, just like each person is unique, And some are just really call for many voices. The typical audiobook is a single narrator, and it makes sense in that way. But there are projects where, maybe they're very dialogue heavy and they have a lot of action scenes or just, main central characters. There are many, many reasons why an author might want to look at moving into a full cast production scenario. Those most often also include music and sound effects, though they don't have to. It really depends on the project. And then sometimes you've got books where maybe one chapter is written from one point of view, next chapter from another point of view, and that's another really good reason to have multiple voices on your project. There are a lot of other reasons as well, but we look at each project as a unique one. And in fact, I was just preparing for a call with an author tomorrow who has a book with many testimonials and chapters by other contributors. These are also really great potentials for having multiple voices because when we hear the quote of somebody and it sounds like, oh, that's actually the person, it has a different flavor. It hits us in a different way. So that's what we're looking at, those kinds of questions.
Now, everybody's going to want to talk about costs, and I know you can't give me specifics, but in roundabout ways, an estimate of what somebody would have to.
Yeah, there are so many different, ranges. This is very general, but typically when we're working on a project, we're looking at somewhere in the range of a few thousand, maybe it's children's book and it ends up 1,000 or something, but more often for a typical novel, let's say, we're looking somewhere in the 4,500 to 7,500, depending upon, what the length of the audiobook is. For one, that's a really big factor. And then also, if we're doing like a full cast project, those can run up to, $15,000, $20,000, which in the audiobook world is actually on the low end for that kind of production. But we've developed systems that are not only really effective and really fun for the team as they're creating the project, but also help keep costs down for authors. I hope that gives a very general idea. Again, it's project by project. And we have, for example, publishers. We do have some special programs that are designed for them to help them with their costs, keeping costs down. It's always worth booking a call to have just a discovery call. Because I'll tell you, even if we don't go forward, and they don't all go forward, we're not a perfect fit for everyone. We're not trying to be. We're trying to find the authors that are in alignment with us that we can really help support. But even having that initial call to get some clarity around what your goals are and some opportunities that may be in your manuscript for you, that's valuable. So I would encourage people to give us a call, schedule a call, and, find out.
Yeah, you won't know till you ask.
That's right.
Files that you receive, I'm assuming that they're upload ready to whichever publisher the author would like to upload. Like Find Away Voices does international distribution, but I understand you do too. Is that right?
So distribution it's a real interesting question. All the files, like when we do a production package, we include the submissions process. So you don't have to worry about that. But we do deliver the files to each of our clients. They should have them. That's good for them to have. And they are all ready to go, ready to be uploaded to the highest specifications demanded in the audiobook industry. Those are pretty high. So we also distribute through AMPlify Audiobooks, which is a platform that we developed. I've been in this industry for many years now. Our company just celebrated 10 years, but I've been doing it for a good amount of time before then. I first fell in love with audiobooks as a narrator in 1981, just to give you an idea. So it's been a long time. But one of the things that was frustrating me for many years was recognizing that we'd create these great audiobooks for our clients, and then it was like, how do you market that? Because there were no control opportunities in terms of promotional pricing or discount codes. It was so limited. You never knew who actually bought your audiobook. And the royalties were pretty darn low, considering what they're selling for. And so this has always felt like terribly wrong to me. And we have finally gotten to that place where last year we were able to launch AMPlify Audiobooks. And it's kind of like the Etsy of audiobooks, if you will. It's like each author or publisher, they get their own store on the platform and they're selling directly. So they get way, way higher royalties. And they're able to, do promotional pricing and create whatever discount codes they want, and to know who their customers are and be able to reach out to them to build community, which is really important to us. Very excited about that as a game changer in our industry, AMPlify Audiobooks. And it's in the App Store. So that was a part of making it really a successful program in terms of listening experience. You want it to be easier for listeners. And so having an app to listen with is critical.
Yes. I've gotten that question quite a few times, both ebooks and audio. How do I get it?
That's right. Yeah.
I was telling you about the new deal. I don't know if you've read about it, where Google, year before last, offered free digital audio conversion, and then nobody would take them on the stores. This past month, Find Away Voices agreed to take a special file called an LFR or LFX from Google and upload it to their service, and they're offering the files now to Nook, Rakuten, which is also Nick, Spotify, Overdrive for the libraries. They've accepted them, and you only charge like $7 or $8 instead of $29.95. But the library price is higher because you get a free kind of thing, and that's what they're doing. In that situation, do you think that AI is going to be taking over your job too?
I don't. It is seriously impacting our industry, and a lot of people are really nervous about it. And here's my take on it. You could use the word spiritual, potentially. It's more than I don't know what the right word is. I'm not sure we have the right word to describe this, but I feel that we humans have something very special about the fact that, our own humanity, we as not just humans, but I'll say as creatures, but there is a kind of special spark that we each have. And I think that our creativity is so central to who we are as beings, just from the perspective of, should we be even trying to replace the creatives in our society, in our humanity, with machine versions of ourselves? I would say absolutely not. Why would we do that? There's definitely a place for AI. Obviously, there are lots of good places for AI, but trying to replace the creatives, that's everything from visual to audiobook narrator to writer, I think trying to replace us is not where it belongs. The reason that I don't think that it's going to replace me or all the human narrators in our industry, especially now, you can actually tell when it's an AI voice. And I have been in conversations where I'm challenged with, maybe it will get so good that you won't notice. But I think that there's something so fundamental about who we are as story. If I ask you, who are you? Immediately we start creating this narrative in our head to try and describe who we are. We kind of live as story. We experience our lives as story, to then turn that over to a replicated voice, an AI version. I think that we will become more and more sensitive. I don't think that we'll desensitize. I think that we'll actually become more sensitive to what's missing. I'll just use this as, I don't know if it's a good example, but if you record a woman's voice and you try to replace a mother's voice, a real voice for a child, something will be lost. And I think that we can maybe understand it in that context. Something is missing, something is a disconnect, something is lost. So that is why I hold out hope and a strong stand on let AI be in places where it makes sense for it to be, not in the places that are trying to replace the creatives. Because I know that the whole idea of having AI replace narrators is based on this foundation of the financial. It's based on the idea, okay, well, it costs a lot to have an audiobook produced by a real human. It's true. It does. The argument then is, well, therefore, we should find a cheaper way to do it. This is where I have a fundamental disagreement, and this is actually why we created AMPlify audiobooks. If you look at the world as, oh, well, the retailers have to take, 90% of the profit and then just give the crumbs to the author, and the author is the one who's paying all the expenses, bearing all the creative burden and putting all that energy and resources into that, and then they just turn it over so someone else can make lots of money off it and they hardly get anything. That's where the problem is. But if you have a system where maybe it does cost a lot initially, but then that you are able to not only recoup that money, but it is an investment that changes the equation fundamentally. It opens the doors for things like, let's say you don't have a lot of money up front, but you know that you're going to be able to recoup it. Then there are so many different ways to work that out, right? The problem, as I see it, is not the expense of creating the audiobooks. It's the model for retail distribution. And that's where stepping up with AMPlify audiobooks makes such a difference, both for the authors, but also for the listeners. Because I think when people really understand what's happening, in other words, they go buy their audiobook from their friend or from an author that they love, or, if they understood how little of that money, if they buy it on Audible, how little gets to the author, and the fact that in most cases the author has paid for everything it's taken to get it onto Audible, if they knew there was another option where the author would get rewarded, where they could actually get connected with the author, be in a community, they would. And that's where that message about AMPlify audiobooks is. It's so important.
Now, with your AMPlify, I'm assuming because these files are huge, they are tremendously huge. You have a very nice, big, huge server in the background taking care of all that, cured and encoded and all that fun stuff.
Yes. Yeah, there is a whole system that we've developed between the app development, the website development, and then the server storage of the files so that they're all communicating smoothly with each other. It's just the way the other audiobook listening apps work. It's not dramatically different from those. I mean, each one's going to be, somewhat unique, and we are compared to Audible, Amazon, I mean, we're just like very tiny, tiny company compared to them. We don't have the resources that they have to develop it in the way that they do, but we have determination, we have passion, and we have a lot of expertise. And pulling that combination together, we've been able to do amazing things and be able to launch this. So yeah, we're working currently on that next upgrade for it already. We just launched it June of 2023, and hopefully by the end of February, we'll have that next really significant upgrade to it.
So you allow people to download files or the chapters so that they can listen to them later?
Technically, they're not downloading the files. They're listening within the app. And this is the way that that the author is protected and their rights are protected so that those files are not shared. Currently, until probably about the end of next month when this next upgrade happens, currently it is, the files are streamed, but we'll be doing so you have to have some data connection currently. But the upgrade that we're working on, which is really important to us, and I know also to our listeners, is to be able to listen to it offline. So that's coming. All of that, being able to have those files protected, but be able to listen through the app to those files and how the whole purchasing process works. So you can purchase on the website at AMPlifyAudiobooks.com. Yeah, and then you listen through the app. That's, in simplest terms, that's what a user gets.
I don't want to get too technical. I have a tendency to confuse people myself, but I like to have the actual files for me as an author so that I can use them for background audio on my book promotions.
We do provide those files, and well, I'm also an author, so sometimes I'm just done my own, and I narrated my own audiobooks, but we do provide those files so that is an opportunity for authors. We're very pro authors, while many platforms will have restrictions, limitations. For example, just simple example authors will know about is you're not technically supposed to copy a review that you've received on Amazon and put it anywhere else, right? Well, that's not very helpful. If you get a great review there, it'd be nice to post it somewhere, right? But that's against the rules. Yes, you get a great review. Yeah, if we do a podcast interviewing the author, we want you to have the file. Yes, we're trying to help authors win and succeed and not be bumping up against, those are our files, so you can't have them, No, it's like, if this will help you, let's do it.
Do you have YouTube channels?
We do have a YouTube channel. Yeah, Pro Audio Voice.
Audio Voice. Okay. And are you on Instagram and Facebook? And
we are. We're on all the places. Well, let's see. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're quite active on TikTok and Instagram both. And LinkedIn, YouTube. I guess those are the main ones.
Yeah. How about Threads? That's the new one.
We're not there. Not on Threads.
Just to let you know, Threads is real simple to set up. You just go from Instagram to Threads. And then you have Instagram and Threads on your same dashboard. It's starting to get popular. With all the rhetoric and problems. Twitter is just...
We were out there. I mean, technically, I guess we still are, but I stepped away from that.
As an author?
I have 5. My most recent one is my first novel, The Left Turn, 2 Lives, Worlds Apart.
Cool. What's that one about?
That one is about, it's kind of about self-discovery through parallel lives, parallel worlds. The characters split off into different versions of their lives, and it's an exploration of what if we changed our story? What could happen? We live every day with the story of our yesterdays that we carry with us into every day. On one hand, it helps ground us, and in many ways, it weighs us down. And so this explores what happens if we kind of are able to set down that baggage and move forward. What could happen? What could we become?
I love what if. You can have so much fun. Are you in Oregon or Washington?
I'm in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Portland has not gotten a very good rap lately. Expensive housing and all the homeless people and the tech industry.
I mean, I'm a little outside of Portland, but technically in Beaverton, but still it's the greater Portland area. But I have 2 of my 3 daughters that live in the area and 2 granddaughters that live here and lots of family. And I just moved here in 2020. So it's about 3.5 years that I've been here, but I love it. So
I wanted to ask about the audio people that part of your organization question once about being part of the Actors Guild kind of thing. Do you do that?
we're a non-union company, but we have over 500 actors, narrators who are part of our talent bank, and they come from all over the world. And we have multiple languages. At one point, I think it was well over 100 languages that we had within the talent bank that were able to record audiobooks in. We have audio engineers all around, and we have clients also all over the world. And 10 years ago, when I was imagining what I'd like my company to grow into, I was thinking about how I would like it to be an international company, because I think that we get very hung up on the boundaries and borders between people, when one of the things that I think audiobooks can help open us up to is how we are really very similar to each other as people, that we have more in common than we have that are different from each other. I think that storytelling, the engaging, entering into the world that an author has created, that those are all creating opportunities for us to better understand each other and ourselves. I think it's one of the great appeals of reading and listening to audiobooks. And audiobooks, of course, it's a very intimate format. When we read text, obviously our imagination is conjuring up those scenes, but there's something about having somebody talking right into your, telling that story. A lot of us listen through earbuds or headphones. It just feels so intimate and personal. The whole performance aspect of audiobooks also, I think, touches us in more different ways. I mean, just on a physical perspective, there is vibration that is happening. We are literally being moved. Our eardrums are being moved as we are listening, and a lot of subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways in which we can be really quite dramatically affected by what we choose to listen to. It matters to me what kinds of content we're putting out into the world. I really want us to be able to help bring these stories to life that are going to have this kind of positive impact for people. That's a huge range of audiobooks. It's not any one particular genre or any one particular message. It's, in fact, the variety, the diversity is important overall in that. So I love audiobooks. I just think they're just the best. I love listening to them. I love recording them, narrating them myself. I love being a part of the process and working with authors. I've been president of Bay Area Independent Publishers Association now for over 10 years. And prior to that was serving on the board or even just being a member. But being part of that community of authors has really helped me recognize how very diverse and how passionate we as authors are. I just have a real love for the people that are putting their heart and soul into words to share. And it's a beautiful thing.
Storytelling has been in our DNA since we learned to express ourselves as cave
Exactly. Yes.
Stories. One of the authors I helped the family do a backlist with Dorothy Gilman. Her books have reached a love in Norway and China and all of that, because she tells a clean story, a humanistic story kind of thing, and trying to figure out how to get her whole thing into other languages. But audiobooks is a bridge to that.
Well, I just mentioned that for authors that are interested in publishing first on audio or publishing only on audiobook, like screenplays, for example. Most people don't really want to read them on the page. They want to hear them. And even doing pre-orders. All of these are possible through AMPlify audiobooks, where that wasn't really an option before.
That's a good service, good selling point. Is there anything else you would like to share with anybody who would like to get into your biz as a narrator? We've got quite a few new narrators because of COVID and people trying to find a way to make money and stuff. What would be your top tips if somebody's considering going into it?
To apply, if you already have experience and you feel like you're ready to go, then you can just go to proaudiovoices.com. And there, under the contact link on the menu, there is a place to apply for the team. If you are just trying to figure out if it's something that you want to do, or if you've decided but you're not experienced yet, then I encourage you to read aloud a lot. Read to kids, read to family, read to anyone who will listen. Read to yourself, but read out loud. You'll develop the skills over time that will really help you, and have fun with it. There are a lot of, coaches and trainers who are out there being narrators, develop those skills for audiobooks, and that's great. There are a lot of options, but I would say have patience, keep at it. It takes patience, it takes persistence, it takes a willingness and an openness to keep improving. We have had, rarely, thankfully, but we have had narrators who have come to us feeling very entitled. It's doing their very first audiobook and that they should be award winning, and it doesn't really work that way. Not that someone might not be great on their first audiobook. That's not what I'm saying. But all I'm saying is leave the entitlement at the door. It will slow you down from your own growth and development and the potential that you have as a person if you just let that go. Just be open to learning and growing and making connections with people, and all of that will enrich your life. There can be so much joy and delight in the process of growing and learning. And if you assume it is all about an end goal, then you're missing out on the best stuff. The journey of life is what's really, really good.
Is there any favorite equipment that you...
We work with a lot of different narrators and audio engineers, and there's such a range of what people choose to use. And in terms of like microphone, that's going to depend somewhat on your space, physical space that you're in and the dimensions of it. And it can get very granular in details that I have heard about and understand, but could not possibly get into the nitty-gritty of describing. And in terms of software, there are a lot of different options now, from simpler ones to ones that are, programs that are much more complex. I've been using, for all the years since I started, I've been using Digital Performer, but I haven't heard that many other narrators that are actually using it. But it works great for me, so why switch to something that when I'm already have learned one and know it? So I just stick with that. I think that it's really going to depend on the person and somewhat on their budget. I will say this. If you're trying to narrate audiobooks and you only have a USB mic, one that plugs straight into your computer, that I would recommend you level up with an audio interface, because you can have a lot more control, get a much better sound that way. Okay. So that's one thing I could say as a general rule. Yeah.
Well, that's a good rule for podcasts and my commercials and all that. I usually record in Zoom. I don't use the web camera because it doesn't filter out background noises.
Podcast is a whole different thing than audiobooks in terms.
And I'm happy with the sound, and I don't get hardly any background noises when I'm doing the editing and all that, because they have that feature on there, and I love software features.
And listen to others audiobooks. You learn from the good ones and the bad ones. Once you kind of go, well, I would have said it differently. And it's not necessarily about how you would say it differently as much as did that sentence actually make sense? You can start sometimes to hear ways that you can improve your own work just by listening to others. And also, sometimes how brilliantly someone will craft a sentence, the delivery of a sentence, the way that they hold a pause or something, can be really quite powerful.
Miss Becky, thank you so much for being a guest and giving us all this wonderful information. Wow, thank you so much, Becky, for being a guest and giving us some great information and hopefully some ideas for all us authors out there for our future in audiobooks. If you like the show, please subscribe. Share it with your friends and on all your social media outlets. That would be great. If you want to be a guest, we're always looking for new guests. So check out southerndragonpublishing.com and fill out the application. Till next week, thank you again. Have a good day.